Kids growing up at one point or another have watched or at least heard of Blues Clues or Dora the Explorer. I mainly watched Blues Clues when I was just a wee toddler, so it isn't all that surprising that there was a horror game based on the childhood likeness. I mean, come on, there are horror games based on Sesame Street, SpongeBob, and even Thomas the Tank Engine. But one that is similar to Dora or Blues Clues that interacts with the player, that is a bit different and makes for quite the spooky scenario. Amanda the Adventurer, as it's called, stands out more like a creepypasta of Dora and Blues Clues if anything, rather than a standalone title with the ability to make sequels and become a series. It really stands out and is an interesting idea and concept for a game, but how did it come to be? The indie horror game was released on April 25th of 2023 onto the PC. Previously, the game's pilot was released on itch.io, a place for indie games that are either free or can be purchased. However, this will only be about the Steam port of the full game, which was developed by JP Game Design, who then partnered with Dread XP to make a proper release of the game. However, this is about it. No development notes, no videos. It just sort of spawned after the pilot did so well and was well received. The only actual notes that I found was that they planned to make this a full game after their 4th update. At this point in the video, I would like to let you guys know that this entire section is not spoiler free. If you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this point in the video to avoid them if you wish. Don't worry, I'll wait. So the player plays as Riley Park, who receives a letter about inheriting a house from their Aunt Kate. However, the letter also tells Riley about their aunt's possible demise as well, something to do about a tape in the attic, and that once they watch it, there is no going back. From here on out, the player watches these tapes to figure out what happened, but they're just tapes, right? How are they connected to Aunt Kate? Well, that's the thing. We don't know. Throughout playing the game, it isn't implied on how Kate obtained these tapes or as to why she has them. The only logical sense is due to her friendship with Sam Colton, the creator of Amanda the Adventurer. She is investigating what happened to not only Sam and Rebecca, his daughter, but the other people that have gone missing as well, which then ties into her letter being written to the player telling her about her untimely fate. Another point to make is that at this point in the game, Kate isn't the only one that has been kidnapped or killed. There are 3 other characters that actually have met fate by the hands of Amanda. Jordan, who isn't seen in the game but is mentioned through a letter on Aunt Kate's corkboard, Lauren, who is seen through a secret tape that mysteriously disappears, and Aunt Kate by, the letter that was sent to the player. Furthermore, this is a full Steam release, so this is dependent on if the pilot is canon or not as well. If it is, then we can add 2 more victims to the list, Amanda's grandmother and an unnamed character who you play as in the pilot. So this raises other questions. Why is Amanda killing? What happened to Sam and Rebecca? Does Amanda actually have a physical form? Why are there so many questions and no answers? Even though there are tons of questions, maybe the story is explained throughout playing the game. Well, no, it actually isn't explained. So maybe instead the endings give some insight on what the hell is going on. Well, there are 5 endings, 4 non-canon and 1 canon. The first obtainable ending is a gruesome end, an ending in which the player dies to Amanda's entity, a demonic-looking creature that represents her, making Riley her next victim. A faithful end is obtained after helping Amanda save a kitten in the altered Everything Rots tape. The player leaves the TV and walks out of the attic, only to cut into a scene at the butcher shop and you being hung on one of the hooks. A hollow end is obtained after saying no to Amanda sharing her secret with the player in the We Can Share tape, which just ends with the entire attic being cleared out with a bloody piece of paper that reads leave on the floor, and then you just leave. The end, which is obtained after saying yes to Amanda instead and sharing her secret that she is still out there. The TV goes absolutely bonkers, forcing the player to throw a brick at the TV. This causes the sun to rise in the windows, perhaps signifying that she has been put to rest, but most likely not. And finally, the end, but with the question mark at the end. This is seemingly the canon ending, in which everything is the same as the end ending, except a hooded stranger bursts through the trapdoor of the attic, ending the game on a cliffhanger. So none of these endings actually give answers. If anything, more questions pop up. Who is the hooded stranger? And why now did they decide to meet you? So if these endings didn't explain what the hell is going on, perhaps the secret tapes that one can find throughout playing the game and solving puzzles will bring life into these questions. Well, actually no. Again, if not, it raises even more questions, especially the company that is airing Amanda the Adventurer. Secret Tape 1 is about Lauren, the birthday girl that we slightly mentioned before that goes missing. Her presumed mother is asking where the birthday girl is, but Lauren is glued to the TV, ignoring her mother. Eventually, it seems that Lauren runs away. However, this may be different due to Amanda's comment on mint chocolate chip ice cream that the dad mentions seconds before Lauren goes missing, implying that maybe Amanda kidnapped her. Secret Tape 2 has no audio but seems to be about Rebecca. She enters a room with a man in a suit and what looks like to be a scientist, presumably signing a type of contract, and then heads off into a heavily guarded room. Secret Tape 3 is a bit bigger in that it is a news outlet reporting on the disappearance of Sam Colton, the maker of the show. It talks about how the show has changed ever since Hamlin Entertainment made the show animated. It has begun to be different, telling kids certain things that shouldn't be okay, and that the company involved even stated that Sam abandoned his daughter and the company, which is not likely. Secret Tape 4 is just an interview with Coffee Break, an in-game talk show. Nothing special here other than Sam mentioning Aunt Kate that she is the local librarian, signifying they are friends. Other than this, Sam talking about how happy and proud he is about the show and Rebecca being a part of it. Secret Tape 5 is where a sort of fan theory is born, and is a bit more important. I won't talk too much about this theory now, but essentially the director is having Rebecca say certain weird words. Due to this, Sam becomes hesitant and wants the whole thing to stop, especially when Rebecca starts talking about a man in her headphones, asking her to do something that she doesn't want to do. And finally, Secret Tape 6, which isn't important, other than Wooly just sitting there, and after 10 minutes of him sitting there, quite literally, he thinks he wants to say something and then just changes his mind. So these tapes do show some answers, but it doesn't progress any story development, and instead is trying to build that story foundation. If anything, the game's story is pretty mid. There are just too many questions with not enough answers, which in some cases can be good, due to it building this foundation for something bigger. But in this case, it's just not tasteful. The only way the story in this game can become something more is if they do follow up with Amanda the Avenger 2, or some DLC content for the first game that sheds light on the many questions the game offers to the player. Now, even though I said the story is mid, I still look forward to more and hope that the developers do make a continuation of Amanda the Adventure in one way or another, because if they don't, well, the story becomes lackluster and, simply put, mid. How the game works is quite simple really. Amanda asks a question and the player must either type in the response or click on a certain object that makes sense to what Amanda is asking. In other words, doing the wrong action leads to Amanda either getting annoyed, frustrated, or she lashes out in anger, showing her true nature. This becomes more apparent the further along the tapes you make it. During the first set of tapes it is slightly shown, but later on she becomes extremely aggressive. Anyway, while answering questions that Amanda gives you, the player must utilize hints given by the tapes in various ways in order to help progress the game. For example, in the first tape, Amanda is talking about baking a pie. After answering questions and helping her find the ingredients, she goes over how to bake the pie. Upon exiting the tape, an oven with some food appears on the table behind the player. Simply follow the instructions Amanda gave you, and the next tape spawns. Rinse and repeat, and that's the gameplay and its mechanics. The player just utilizes memory, or the power of writing everything down in order to progress forward in the game's many puzzles. In some cases, the player also needs to think out of the box, such as when on the tape What's a Family, in which certain catastrophes appear on the screen as a warning, where the player needs to pause at that moment just to spin a toy wheel, otherwise they don't get the next tape. So for a 2 to 3 hour game, it still is a great engaging experience, with easy to medium level puzzle solving. The only thing it lacks is replayability, and since you know what happens on certain tapes, most of the time you can just skip over stuff you know, and just trudge forward for different endings, or just for completing the game. Let's just say, for a game that is only $10, this game looks pretty damn good. However, there are two different art styles and pictures that are painted with this game's art style to discuss. The first scene to discuss is the attic. This may seem weird to make a point of just this one room, but honestly, like I said, it looks too good for a $9 game. The detailing is sharp and looks like an attic. The only thing missing is a creepy vibe. I alone don't like going into my attic because it's dark and spooky, and I've had to take care of 2 bats. So the fact that this room looks slightly comforting is different. A type of bait environment that could be used. Something to help you relax, and then when things go astray, becomes creepy and hair tingling. The second scene is a cartoon environment of Amanda the Adventurer, the tapes that are played on the TV set. It's not as sharp of a quality and design, but kind of has that Fisher-Price model, just a bit lower budget. It feels weird for a cartoon considering a lot of the objects have eyes, which makes sense I suppose since Amanda's entity has, you know, a shit ton of eyes. Talking about her entity, this has got to be one of the creepiest monsters I've seen in any game in a while. I mean, look at this thing. It's like if you took Slender Man, made him skinnier, and took off the clothes, and then added the skin texture of the Ring Girl. Oh, and added tons of eyes with piranha teeth. It's quite creepy, especially with how it enters the attic. It just punches through the trapdoor, creepily enters, and crawls over like some sort of spider bitch. So honestly, both art styles mesh well for each other, changing the environment for the player whether they are in the TV or in the attic. It does paint a nice picture, but I don't see the art direction being the vibe of what makes the game creepy or scary. It's the interaction of Amanda. Amanda's interaction with the player or audience in this case is what really makes the game creepy. Sure, the environment plays a big part, but the noises and sound effects are what play a big part in setting the mood. For instance, the demonic distortion of her voice when she becomes too angry is unsettling and creepy. The creaking in the house while walking through the attic with the sound of distant thunder and no background music makes it more unsettling of an environment, which is great, considering this is more important than the original soundtrack, since it is a horror entry title. But mentioning this, there isn't one. At least, not really. It is just one soundtrack, one that repeats only when watching the tapes. It is easy to ignore it and really only holds value at the main menu screen. Now, even though there isn't a lot to talk about for the sound design, I will say that the actual best character in the game is great. Don't care what is said. It is Blabbot, a random robot that helps out the player throughout the game once they obtain batteries for him. He just is great and provides for slight comedic value for what he says during certain parts of the game, and I think it's just wonderful.
There, I said it. I am in love with you.
There are possibilities of fan theories that can be produced for this game. One that I found the most interesting was that Amanda is the Pied Piper for Hammond Entertainment. Funnily enough, this is extremely likely considering the tale of the actual Pied Piper of Hamelin. Oh, I see what you did there, devs. The tale essentially is that the Pied Piper was a rat catcher who was hired by the town of Hamelin to get rid of its rat infestation. When it was time for payment, the town refused, causing him to understandably be angry and retaliate. However, using a magical pan flute to lure and kidnap children is a bit much for retaliation. So that is this situation, but a bit more demonic. See, Amanda, or rather Rebecca, aren't the ones who wanted this. Hammond were the ones that wanted this. We can see that Hammond Entertainment is quite devious and that the director is looking for something, with Rebecca being the key. They are also most likely responsible for the disappearance of Sam and Rebecca. At one point, we see the director of the company is sitting down with Rebecca, making her warm up her lines for the show by reciting demonic chants. The reciting of Baal, one of the demon princes of hell in Christian demonology, the reciting of Paimon, a demon of considerable power with the mastery over forbidden or hidden knowledge, and the reciting of Balaam, the demon of avarice, idol worship, and immortality. After Sam hears this, he becomes worried and wants Rebecca to stop, where she then responds to a voice in her headphones. Most likely one of the demons she just chanted for. This has the same likeness as Bloody Mary in the folklore of summoning her by standing in front of a mirror with a lighted candle and saying her name. However, in this circumstance, it is most likely true that the director was able to strike a deal with one of the demons by letting Rebecca's soul become possessed with the entity we see that kills the player. Most likely, the demon that we're seeing is Paimon though, for his demonic ability of possession, mind control, and manipulation. All traits that can be used to kidnap children and possess Rebecca to use her mind as a husk while he stays in the mortal realm as Amanda. Another reason this makes sense that Paimon is the demon behind this is for his vast knowledge, wisdom, and extreme wealth. All things that the director of Hammond would be most likely wanting. So essentially, the director is using Amanda as a Pied Piper for luring children to gather their souls for the demons in the promise of untold knowledge and wealth. This is just a theory, but it is one that I found extremely interesting and enjoyed researching into. It could even be true, to be honest. Let's take a step back. All in all, while enthralled with the game, it is quite fascinating, but afterwards, all you have to take from the game is questions. No fear of the dark, or something to keep you up listening to the bumps in the night. I myself have problems with horror games. I was afraid of the dark after playing Amnesia, but for this game, the creepy vibes wore off just after a couple jump scares. Understandably, the game doesn't seem to be building up for just a horror-like experience, but just an experience that is building up for something greater, a mystery creepypasta of the sort. I'm really hoping that the developers will make something out of this, not only because I really enjoyed the game, but due to there being so many possibilities for the story that could happen with Amanda the Adventurer. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell. If you don't, you won't be notified on future videos. I plan on doing another video on Amanda the Adventurer with theories since I had such a great time researching it. I also want to do other horror-like games just due to how much I have been starting to enjoy them. Make sure to comment on content you'd like to see as well, or anything you are looking forward to gaming-wise, like your friendly neighborhood. I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys!